Last year, Hoka redesigned the Clifton 6 and made it lighter and softer than the previous Clifton 5. As a really big fan of the Clifton 6, it was one of my top favorite Cliftons of all time, so I was really hoping that they wouldn't mess anything up with the Clifton 7. Thankfully, with the Clifton 7, they didn't make any super drastic changes, so it keeps a lot of what I loved about the Clifton 6 the same. After about 100 miles, I'm ready to give you my full review of the Hoka Clifton 7. Just a quick disclaimer, I did receive this shoe for free from Hoka and Jackrabbit, but that does not influence or change my opinion about the shoe, and these thoughts are all my own. So with my reviews, I will be giving different features of the shoe a green, yellow, or red. Green means it was all positive, yellow means that there's about an equal amount of pros and cons, and red means that the negatives outweigh the positives. Let's start with the upper. For the fit of the Clifton 7, I give it a yellow. Although the length of the shoe was fine and it had no heel slip, I thought that the gusseted tongue made it feel a bit too snug around the midfoot. If you have a wider foot, you may want to be careful and even try the wide version of this shoe. With the Clifton 7, I never felt like I had to crank the laces down, but I was still able to get a secure lockdown, where I knew that my foot wasn't going to go anywhere. The Clifton 7 is a plush shoe all around, and that includes the upper. The tongue and ankle collar are very padded, and the mesh is very soft with a nice mix of flexibility and rigidity. So the breathability isn't the best. The cutouts in the mesh definitely helped make it more breathable, though since it's a multi-layered mesh, it isn't the most breathable shoe out there. It does keep your feet warm in the winter and lets them breathe in the summer though. Alright, now let's talk about this cushioned midsole. The Clifton 7 keeps the same midsole as last year's Clifton 6, and this was a huge upgrade because it went back to being the soft midsole compared to the brick that was the Clifton 5. Anyways, let's get into the specifics. Hoka is known for starting the max cushion movement, and the Clifton definitely has a lot of it. It's one of their most cushioned models and is definitely cloud-like. Although there is a lot underfoot, the Clifton has a nice mix of soft marshmallowiness and a little bit of bounce. While you definitely won't get a nice pop off the toe, like a firmer plated shoe, I wouldn't say it's a complete mush either. With Hoka's famous rocker technology, the Clifton provides a super smooth ride. No matter the pace, I never felt like I needed to be more on my toes or avoid heel striking. The shoe just rolled with me. While you will get many miles out of this midsole, it does start breaking down a bit and losing some of its bounce, but you should still be able to get over 300 miles comfortably out of it. Alright, now let's talk about the outsole. With a lot of exposed foam and the rubber not being the thickest, the outsole isn't the most durable. Most people probably won't have many problems, but if you are someone who typically burns through the outsole, don't be surprised if you do the same with this shoe. While they are great on roads, treadmills, and dirt roads, you aren't going to get much grip on trails, wet grass, or anything like that. Coming in at just a bit over 9 ounces, there are definitely lighter shoes that still have a lot of cushion, but for such an all-around plush shoe, there are definitely heavier options as well. Alright, now let's get into the run type stoplight portion of the review. I'll be going through speed day, everyday, long run day, and recovery day and giving it a red, yellow, or green light. For speed day, the Clifton 7 gets a red light. Since the midsole isn't the most responsive and it definitely isn't the lightest, this shoe is hard to recommend for speed day, especially since you kind of sink into the shoe and you don't really get that bounce back. So I think there are plenty of other options that you should choose for speed day over the Clifton 7. A great option from Hoka would be the Rocket X. For everyday training, the Clifton 7 gets a green light. Logging my everyday miles in the Clifton 7 has been a pleasure. So if you prefer a plush and cushy workhorse, the Clifton 7 is definitely a great option for you. Long run day gets a green light as well. With all the soft cushioning, that stable platform, and that rocker, I found that I really enjoy doing my long slow days in the Clifton 7, and it was probably my #1 go-to shoe for that. No matter how long the run, my feet were always happy at the end of it when I was wearing this shoe. And even if I did kind of pick up the pace a little bit and do some more marathon effort paces, this shoe never seemed to work against me, and I think it's just a good training companion to really build up your endurance. For recovery day, the Clifton 7 gets another green light. So with both the Clifton 6 and the Clifton 7, they have both been one of my go-to recovery shoes. The pillow-like cushioning feels great when you're going at slower paces, and the rocker really comes in handy when you're landing further back on your heel, or if you're just kind of shuffling along after a hard workout the day before. It really just kind of helps you pick up your cadence. So in Hoka's advertising, they tend to use marshmallows a lot, and I think that this is an accurate representation, especially at the slower paces. It feels like you have just a bag of marshmallows strapped to your feet. So although it isn't the original Clifton that many people long for the return of, I think the Clifton 7 is definitely a great evolution in the Clifton line to be an everyday trainer workhorse that will keep your feet comfortable mile after mile after mile. So although I wasn't a big fan of this upper, specifically how it just kind of was too tight around my foot thanks to that gusseted tongue, I still really loved the underfoot feel of that cushion that was carried over from the Clifton 6. And like I hinted at before, it's definitely a huge improvement over the Clifton 4 and 5. So as far as the price goes, I think the Clifton gets a yellow light just because it comes in at $130, which for this much cushion isn't bad. But I think coming in at $120 would be even better, especially when the Hoka Mach 4 comes in at the same price of $130. It's difficult to choose between the two, but at least it isn't $150, so that's something. Speaking of the Hoka Mach 4, I just got a pair, so subscribe so you don't miss my full review of those. And as always, keep on running.